You are spending money every month on problems that families in rural China solved centuries ago without spending anything at all. The difference is not better products or more advanced technology. The difference is that they were forced to figure out what actually works, and you have been sold conveniences that create dependency instead of solutions. The methods that follow are not historical curiosities. They are practical techniques developed under conditions of scarcity, tested across generations, and still in use in many traditional Chinese households today. Each one addresses a specific expense that most modern households accept as unavoidable. Heating, cooling, food waste, water, cleaning products, laundry, pest control. The list continues. What ties them together is a single underlying principle that we will return to later, but for now, understand this. These are not lifestyle tips. They are cost reduction strategies that have been field tested for longer than any product you can buy, and they require almost nothing to implement. The first hack is residual heat cooking, and it cuts fuel consumption on long cooking grains and beans by more than half. Bring your rice, congee, or beans to a full boil in a covered pot. Let it boil for exactly 2 minutes. Turn off the heat completely. Wrap the pot tightly in a thick cotton quilt, a folded blanket, or even an old winter coat. Leave it wrapped for 30 to 40 minutes depending on the grain. The retained heat finishes the cooking without any additional fuel. This works because water at boiling temperature holds an enormous amount of thermal energy, and textiles are remarkably effective insulators when layered and compacted around a heat source. In rural Sichuan and Yunnan, families cooking over wood fires use this method daily, not as a trick, but as standard practice, because fuel had to be gathered by hand and every log mattered. You can apply this to rice, oats, lentils, stew, or soup. The texture is identical to stove-cooked food, sometimes better, because the even ambient heat prevents scorching. The second hack is cold water starch removal for clothing, and it eliminates the need for special stain products on the most common type of fabric stain. When you spill something starchy on cotton or linen, sauce, noodle water, porridge, dumpling filling, do not use hot water. Soak the stained section immediately in cold water and rub the fabric against itself under the stream. Hot water sets starch by denaturing the proteins and fusing the particles into the fiber. Cold water lets the starch molecules remain loose and water-soluble, so they wash away with friction alone. This was common knowledge in households throughout Jiangsu and Zhejiang, where silk and cotton garments were both valuable and expected to last for years. You do not need detergent for this. You need cold water, quick action, and 30 seconds of rubbing. The third hack is ventilated storage for root vegetables, and it extends the life of potatoes, onions, garlic, ginger, and sweet potatoes by weeks without refrigeration. Store them in a woven basket, a wooden crate, or a cardboard box with holes punched in the sides, and place the container in the coolest, darkest part of your home. Do not use plastic. Do not seal them. Air circulation prevents the moisture accumulation that causes rot and sprouting. Darkness prevents the light exposure that triggers glycoalkaloid production in potatoes and sprouting in onions. In traditional courtyard homes across northern China, root vegetables were stored in shallow wooden bins kept in shaded corners of covered walkways where temperature stayed stable and airflow was constant. A 5-pound bag of potatoes that would last 2 weeks in a cupboard will last 6 weeks in a ventilated basket kept away from heat and light. The fourth hack is ash paste for scrubbing, and it removes baked-on grease and carbon from cookware better than most commercial degreasers. Take cold wood ash from a fireplace, fire pit, or charcoal grill. Mix it with just enough water to form a thick paste. Apply it to the stained surface with a damp cloth and scrub in circles. Rinse thoroughly with hot water. The potassium carbonate in wood ash is mildly alkaline, which breaks down fatty acids into soap through a process called saponification. The fine grit provides gentle abrasion without scratching metal or enamel. In rural Anhui and Hubei, this was the standard method for cleaning woks and steamers, long before detergent existed. If you have access to ash, you have access to a free, powerful cleaner that works on ovens, stovetops, and cast iron. The fifth hack is layer dressing for indoor thermal regulation, and it reduces heating costs by allowing you to lower your thermostat by 3 to 5 degrees without discomfort. Wear a thin base layer against your skin, a thicker insulating middle layer, and a windproof outer layer even indoors if your home is drafty. The key is trapped air between the layers, which provides far more insulation than a single thick garment. Traditional Chinese winter clothing, particularly the padded cotton jackets worn in unheated homes throughout Shanxi and Shanxi, was designed exactly this way. Multiple thin layers of cotton stitched in channels created air pockets that retained body heat even in structures with no central heating and only a small coal stove for cooking. Your body generates about 100 watts of heat at rest. Layering keeps that heat close to your skin instead of letting it disperse into the room. The sixth hack is rice water for plant fertilization, and it provides free, nutrient-rich irrigation for any potted plant or garden bed. After rinsing rice before cooking, save the cloudy white water. Let it sit at room temperature for 24 to 48 hours until it smells faintly sour. Dilute it 1 part rice water to 2 parts fresh water, then use it to water your plants. The water contains starches, vitamins, and trace minerals leached from the rice grains, and the brief fermentation increases nutrient availability and introduces beneficial microbes. In traditional agricultural villages throughout Guangdong and Fujian, this was never discarded. It went to vegetable plots, potted herbs, or fruit trees. You are already producing this every time you cook rice. Pouring it down the drain is pouring away fertilizer. The seventh hack is directional window covering for seasonal temperature control, and it maintains indoor comfort without air conditioning or excessive heating. In summer, cover south-facing windows during the day with light-colored cloth, bamboo blinds, or even taped cardboard to block direct solar heat. In winter, leave those same windows fully exposed during daylight hours to maximize passive solar gain, then cover them at night to prevent heat loss through the glass. This works because windows are the largest source of unwanted heat gain in summer and heat loss in winter. In traditional courtyard homes in Beijing and Tianjin, paper screens and thick fabric curtains were adjusted seasonally, sometimes daily, based on sun position and outdoor temperature. The same principle applies to any window in any climate. Blocking summer sun can reduce indoor temperature by 4 to 7 degrees. Exposing winter sun can raise it by 3 to 5. The eighth hack is porcelain spoon jar storage for cooking oils and sauces, and it prevents waste, contamination, and oxidation of the small amounts left in bottles. When a bottle of soy sauce, vinegar, sesame oil, or chili oil is nearly empty, pour the remaining liquid into a small porcelain spoon or shallow dish. Cover it loosely with a small plate or lid, and store it in a cool, dark cabinet. Use it within the week. This reduces the surface area exposed to air, which slows oxidation and flavor degradation. In restaurant kitchens and home kitchens throughout Chengdu and Chongqing, small porcelain dishes were used this way as a matter of routine, to ensure nothing was wasted and every drop of expensive seasoning was used while still fresh. The alternative is leaving it in the bottle where it spoils or dries out, or throwing it away. The ninth hack is wet cloth evaporative cooling for small spaces, and it lowers the temperature in a single room by several degrees without electricity. Hang a large cotton towel or sheet, dampened with cold water, in front of an open window or door where there is airflow. As water evaporates from the fabric, it absorbs heat from the surrounding air, cooling the breeze that passes through it. This is the same mechanism sweat uses to cool your skin. In the hot, dry climates of Gansu and Xinjiang, wet cloths were hung in doorways and across courtyards during summer afternoons to make indoor spaces tolerable during peak heat. This method works best in low humidity. In humid climates, the effect is weaker but still present. Re-dampen the cloth every few hours as it dries. The 10th hack is twice-boiled water prevention for better taste and appliance longevity, and it is one of the simplest changes you can make in a kitchen. When you boil water in a kettle and do not use all of it, do not top off the kettle with fresh water and re-boil the mixture. Pour out the old water and start fresh. Repeatedly boiling the same water concentrates dissolved minerals, which affects taste and increases limescale buildup in the kettle. Fresh water boiled once tastes cleaner and produces less residue. In tea-drinking households throughout Zhejiang and Fujian, this was an absolute rule, not for superstition, but because the quality of the water directly affected the quality of the tea, and mineral buildup ruined good kettles. If you drink tea, coffee, or simply hot water daily, this one change improves flavor and reduces the frequency of descaling. We have now covered 10 techniques. What follows are the methods that go deeper, the ones that touch multiple areas of household spending and shift how you think about maintenance, preservation, and self-reliance. Number 11 will address food waste. Number 14 will address water. Number 17 is the one that surprises people most. We continue. The 11th hack is vegetable scrap broth base, and it turns what you currently throw away into the foundation of soups, stews, and sauces. Collect onion skins, garlic skins, carrot tops, celery ends, ginger scraps, green onion roots, mushroom stems, and any other clean vegetable trimmings in a container in your freezer. When the container is full, simmer the scraps in water for 45 minutes, strain, and use the liquid as stock. The peels and ends contain concentrated flavor compounds, vitamins, and minerals that leach into the water during simmering. In resourceful kitchens throughout Guangxi and Guizhou, nothing was considered waste if it had flavor or nutrition left in it, and broths were built on exactly this principle. You are already producing these scraps. Freezing them until you have enough takes no effort and no space. The resulting stock is free and often richer than anything you would buy. The 12th hack is sun drying for moisture removal and preservation, and it works on herbs, citrus peels, chili peppers, mushrooms, and thin-sliced vegetables. Place the items on a clean cloth, a bamboo tray, or a baking sheet in direct sunlight in a location with good airflow. Bring them inside at night to avoid dew. Repeat for 2 to 4 days depending on thickness and humidity. Drying reduces water content below the level that bacteria and mold need to grow, and sun exposure provides mild sterilization through ultraviolet light. Across rural Yunnan and Sichuan, entire harvests of chili peppers and medicinal herbs were preserved this way on rooftops and open courtyards every autumn. Drying extends shelf life from days to months and concentrates flavor. If you grow herbs or buy them fresh and cannot use them all, drying them costs nothing and saves you from buying dried versions later. The 13th hack is cold water foot soaks for better sleep and lower cooling costs, and it works by triggering your body's natural temperature regulation before bed. Fill a basin with cool, not cold water. Sit and soak your feet for 10 to 15 minutes about an hour before you plan to sleep. Dry them thoroughly. The cooling of your extremities signals your core body temperature to drop slightly, which is one of the primary physiological cues for sleep onset. In hot, humid regions of southern China, particularly Guangdong and Fujian, evening foot soaks were a regular practice not only for cleanliness, but for comfort and rest in homes without air conditioning. This does not replace a cool bedroom, but it allows you to fall asleep more easily in a warmer room, which means you can raise your thermostat or use less fan power at night. The 14th hack is gray water reuse for outdoor plants, and it cuts your water bill while keeping gardens and potted plants healthy. Collect used water from rinsing vegetables, washing hands, or draining dehumidifiers. Do not use water contaminated with soap, grease, or chemicals. Pour the collected water directly onto non-edible plants or around the base of trees and shrubs. The water still contains trace nutrients and is perfectly adequate for irrigation. In densely populated areas of Jiangnan where water had to be carried from wells or canals, every liter was used at least twice before it left the household. No one wasted clean water on tasks that gray water could handle. If you water plants regularly and also rinse produce or drain a dehumidifier, you are producing gallons of reusable water every week. The 15th hack is garlic and vinegar pest deterrent for kitchens and pantries, and it repels ants, fruit flies, and pantry moths without poison or traps. Crush 2 cloves of garlic and steep them in half a cup of white vinegar for 24 hours. Strain out the solids. Pour the liquid into a spray bottle and mist the areas where you see pests, along baseboards, windowsills, and around trash bins. The acetic acid in vinegar and the sulfur compounds in garlic are both strong deterrents to insects. In traditional storage rooms and kitchens throughout Shanxi and Henan, garlic and vinegar were used not only as food but as preservation and protection agents because their antimicrobial and repellent properties were observed and trusted. This mixture loses potency after about a week, so make it fresh in small batches. It costs nearly nothing and contains no synthetic chemicals. The 16th hack is closed-door room heating prioritization, and it can cut your heating bill by 20 to 30% if you live in a multi-room home. Heat only the rooms you actively use. Close doors to unused bedrooms, storage areas, and rarely occupied spaces. Let those areas stay cooler. Your heating system works less to maintain temperature in a smaller volume of air, and closed doors act as insulation barriers that prevent heat from escaping into unused zones. In traditional northern Chinese homes, only the room with the kang, a heated brick platform, was kept warm. Other rooms were left unheated and entered only briefly. Families adapted their routines to the heated space rather than heating the entire structure. If you live alone or spend most of your time in 2 or 3 rooms, Heating the entire house is waste. Heat the space you occupy and close off the rest. The 17th hack is the one that consistently surprises people because it seems too simple to matter, but the savings are measurable and immediate. It is full kettle boiling reduction, and it prevents you from wasting energy heating water you do not need. Measure the amount of water you actually use for your tea, coffee, or cooking, and boil only that amount. Most people fill the kettle to the maximum line out of habit, and then use a fraction of it. Heating unnecessary water wastes energy every single time. In households throughout China where fuel was purchased by the bundle or the weight, every unnecessary use of the stove was a visible cost. Precision was not optional. If you boil water twice a day and you are heating double what you need, you are spending twice the energy required. Measure once, then use that measure as your standard. The energy saved is small per use but compounds daily. The 18th hack is steam reuse for secondary cooking, and it captures heat you are already producing and applies it to a second task. When you steam rice, dumplings, or buns, place a heat-proof plate or small bowl of vegetables, eggs, or tofu on the rack above the main item. The same steam that cooks the base layer will cook the second item simultaneously. This works because steam transfers heat efficiently to anything it contacts, and the energy required to produce that steam is already being spent. In traditional dim sum kitchens and home kitchens throughout Guangdong, stacked bamboo steamers allowed families to cook an entire meal over a single pot of boiling water. You do not need bamboo steamers. You need a pot, a steaming rack, and the awareness that steam is heat you can use more than once. The 19th hack is shade-grown indoor herbs for year-round supply and grocery savings, and it works even in apartments with limited light. Grow green onions, cilantro, mint, or basil in small pots near a north-facing window or in a shaded area that gets indirect light. These herbs tolerate lower light better than most vegetables and will grow slowly but steadily. Harvest only the outer leaves or top growth and let the base continue producing. A single pot of green onions can supply your cooking for months if you harvest correctly. In urban Chinese households with minimal outdoor space, windowsill herb gardens were standard, not decorative but functional, providing daily seasoning without trips to the market. If you buy fresh herbs even once a month, growing a few pots saves money and reduces waste from unused portions that spoil. The 20th hack is the nighttime thermostat drop with preheating, and it cuts overnight heating costs while maintaining comfort. 1 hour before bed, raise your thermostat by 2 degrees to slightly overheat your home. Then, right before you get into bed, drop the thermostat by 5 degrees and rely on blankets and retained warmth to carry you through the night. Your home will stay tolerably warm for the first few hours as the stored heat dissipates, and by the time it cools further, you are asleep and insulated under covers. In northern Chinese homes during winter, fires were allowed to die down at night because maintaining them was costly and unnecessary once people were in bed under thick quilts. Your body needs far less environmental heat when you are lying down and covered. Preheating prevents the immediate discomfort of a cold drop, and the overnight reduction saves energy during the longest inactive period of your day. What ties all of these methods together is not cultural tradition for its own sake. It is the principle of value extraction. Every material, every bit of heat, every drop of water, every scrap of food was understood to contain more utility than a single use could exhaust. The goal was not to use things up. The goal was to extract every available benefit before anything was discarded. That mindset produces methods that look wasteful or inefficient to people trained to optimize for convenience. But when you measure by cost and resource use, they are far more efficient than almost any modern equivalent. These are not all the methods. They are a starting point. The broader lesson is that nearly every recurring household expense you accept as fixed is actually a problem someone with fewer resources already solved. Your advantage is not better tools. Your advantage is that you have the option to adopt their solutions without facing the constraints that made those solutions necessary for survival. That makes them easier for you, not harder. Here is what you do today. Look at your next meal. Before you throw away vegetable scraps, peels, or rinse water, stop and ask what else that material can do. Put the scraps in a bag in the freezer. Pour the rinse water on a plant. Boil only the water you will actually use. One decision, one material, one redirection of something you were about to waste. That is where this starts.